This is Defenders on TV Podcast Industries. We're back talking about Echo, Season 1, Episode 1, Chafa.
I'm growing concerned, Maya. You're not alone. We all mourn your father. I understand your rage.
Do you?
My father was killed also. When I was 12 years old. The pain that I felt in the wake of that moment is something that I've never felt again since. Let me help you release this rage in a more constructive way.
How?
A job. You have greatness in you. Take your hurt, your loss, take your pain, make it into something useful.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to Defenders Podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about Marvel Spotlight presents Echo Season 1, Episode 1, Chafa. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow Defenders. I am your other host, John.
And rounding out the group, I am Chris. It's the only Echo joke I'm going to make today.
Are you sure?
Glad you made it.
I'm 100%. Myself and John we'll make at least 20 Echo jokes, and Derek will edit it down to probably that one, maybe one or two.
Oh, don't you love that they're still giving me editing jobs after all this time, and they don't respect my time at all. It's all about their time and me fixing it in post. Sorry. That makes me sound like I'm really angry about it. I'm not. I can fix those really, really easily. But it is a happy new year. We should say. We did finish off last year covering What If, but we're into the new year with TV Podcast Industries. The reason why I'm really saying that is because this is the 10th year of podcasting on TV Podcast Industries. So it's just really fun to be talking about some of the shows we're talking about this year and some of the ways we're going to be talking about the shows this year. Because if you think about some of our big shows, we did Daredevil, of course.
Yes.
And here we are in Echo featuring Daredevil in this first episode, which is kind of cool. And also
feeling very like the Marvel Netflix shows.
100%.
Mature content, warning.
Yeah, and probably the big thing about it is because it's our 10th anniversary and because we're dealing with a show like the Netflix Marvel shows, we're going to cover it just like we did the Netflix Marvel shows. One episode per week, even though they were released in one day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're spreading out the love.
We are, absolutely.
5
Much
weeks.
like a good piece of butter on warm toast.
Yes.
We're just going to melt all over your month.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, and that'll take us right up to our 10th anniversary. Our first episode came out on the 27th of February, 10 years ago, 2014. I had to do a little bit of mathematics there for no reason.
Yes.
But it should take us right up to our actual 10th anniversary on the 27th of February. So looking forward to covering Echo over the next 5 weeks. But the other thing,
Yes.
we did get a reminder from Claire, one of our wonderful fellow Defenders and listeners from many, many years, got a reminder that we are getting the Penguin spin-off TV show this year, which is a spin-off of the Batman movie, of course, from Matt Reeves, set in the city of Gotham. And our first podcast 10 years ago was our Gotham
It certainly
podcast.
was.
So here we are 10 years later having a Defender show and a Gotham show on in the same year. It's kind of cool, isn't it?
It is. It's very cool. Who would have realized that fate could align the stars in such a way?
Well, any other year, it wouldn't have happened, is the point. That's why I find it so intriguing.
For me, it's just Colin Farrell playing Penguin. Like, that's crazy for me.
Absolutely.
Like, and a whole show about him and with him and that Penguin. Derek and I discussed this a couple of days ago now. And I was like, this has been retooled. This show has been retooled a couple of times. Yeah. And I'm like, this is going to be, it's been retooled, not re-edited, not changed. They filmed what they wanted to film.
Yes.
It's just, it started off, initially the budget started as one thing. It was, and Derek, you can give the exact finer details, but I was like, I did not know that this is coming out of nowhere for me. I can't remember that this was coming, and here it is, 2024.
Well, absolutely. And as you say, Colin Farrell, I mean, I'd get in that fat suit afterwards.
Pretty sweaty, John. Pretty sweaty.
Breathe it in.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be even more connected to our original Gotham coverage, because it was supposed to be the GCPD TV show, which would have starred Commissioner Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright from the Batman movies. So we would have actually been going back to GCPD this year if that had happened. And then there was supposed to be an Arkham Asylum show, and then Colin Farrell signed on board to do this special series coming up later this year. But we're not here to talk about everything else we're covering through this year. I'm sure we'll talk about that in our 10th anniversary special, which I'm penciling into our calendars for around the 24th or 25th of February.
Very good.
So we can have it out on the 27th of February. Mark it in your calendars. We're here to talk about Echo, the new show from Marvel. All 5 episodes of the show were released on the 10th of January under a brand new banner, this Marvel Spotlight banner. So we have loads of banners for Marvel TV now. We have the Marvel Netflix shows, of course. We have the MCU shows. We had Marvel Presents, which was the Werewolf by Night special that came out for Halloween year before last, and then the color version came out last year. And now we have Marvel Spotlight. Marvel Spotlight comics are usually one-off comics, usually one standalone story. So I understand why this actually does suit Echo.
Yeah, I would say so. But I mean, okay, we're only 1 episode deep at this stage, but, you know, if, and depending on the story, of course, but Maya here, played by Alakwa Cox, you know, if she fits and it's really good, then why not have it more than just a one-off?
Absolutely.
And certainly with the Daredevil series coming out as well, there's scope for in there. So if it's a hit, because my feeling from this first episode was it was like a warm, comforting blanket being back in a Marvel Netflix type show, where it certainly doesn't pull its punches and certainly feels more adult. I mean, I know we've been sort of having a look back at the season 1 of Daredevil, and I mean, that was gritty.
It was.
And I felt the same here.
Similar,
It felt similar.
Yeah, definitely similar in style. Only available on Hulu in the US, and only if you have your parental access set, and Disney Plus obviously is merged with Hulu over there, so you have to have your adult settings or else you don't get access to this. But yeah, we went back and watched the first season of Daredevil, and without a doubt, it is a much more adult show, and there is much more adult content in there than we've seen in any of the Marvel shows. But if you haven't heard our coverage of any of the Defenders shows, they are available through our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. You can pop on over there, go through the Defenders TV podcast, I think is the best link to get all of our coverage of all of the Marvel shows. But we covered every single episode of every single Marvel show on Netflix. And what's really interesting is, officially, as of this week, the Netflix shows have entered the MCU timeline.
I saw this.
Officially on Disney Plus. So, so they've all been placed where they would have appeared alongside the movies. So, a step finally to bring them in. I believe the only major show now is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that has not appeared on the timeline. But all they need is one quick moment, one quick comment like happens here in this episode of Echo to make them back into the MCU timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. But this, really good to see the timeline there with the Marvel Netflix.
Quite cool, isn't it?
Yeah. But even all the TV shows, because even though it's in the timeline, you click into it and then there's like, 3 seasons.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So if you do want to work through that timeline, it will take a lot of time.
It will. They didn't go episode by episode, unfortunately. Anyway, let's get on with Echo. We'd love to hear your thoughts. As I said, we're going to be covering this weekly, all 5 episodes, 1 a week. So you can get your thoughts into us by emailing us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Just mark it which episode you're talking about, or if you want to just put it in for the final episode, just mark it about the whole season. You can also join us over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. There's already a spoiler post up for each of the 5 episodes. On there, just again, make your comment on whatever episode you want to talk about, and we'll discuss them on the podcast.
Yes, or why not head on over to Threads? We are there because we want to get rid of X, because it's Twitter's X. We just want to get rid of it like a bad smell, like an X, like you would. So head on over to Threads. We are over on Threads at TV Podcast Industries, and you can find us there and interact with us there and tell us your thoughts there, and we'll read them out on the next show. Well, the relevant show when we cover it.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Let's get into it, guys.
Yes. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, I want to give a big shout out, of course, to the creators of Echo. Echo was created by David Mack and Joe Quesada back in the day as part of the Daredevil run. She did make her first appearance in Daredevil, but major character creators there, David Mack and Joe Quesada. Really interesting. They were on the red carpet for the special presentation last week.
Nice.
And David Mack was specifically called out by Vincent D'Onofrio, telling him that he was inspirational in his performance and his portrayal of Kingpin when he initially started back on Daredevil. So really cool that he's got that recognition and that he's called out as creator of Echo throughout the show. So a lot of the style, a lot of the movement that comes from the character comes from the comic book version that David Mack helped create.
Yeah, and David Mack's art is just
beautiful,
fantastic.
Yeah.
I do have some prints of his which are really just phenomenal, and he's very active in sharing his artwork as well, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did one of the most amazing one, which was actually Echo's name in ASL, spelled in ASL, which then we saw Disney Plus use in some of their promotional materials in live action. They actually took photographs of someone spelling Echo, ECHO, using ASL, and it was great. And he commented like, "Thank you so much for using my original art," or "Thank you so much for adapting my art for this."
Exactly,
it was great.
Yeah. So lots of inspiration taken there from the head writer of the show is Marion Dyer, known as executive story editor and writer on Better Call Saul for 21 episodes of that show, the prequel to Breaking Bad.
Yes, never seen that either.
Yeah, but heard great things about it. I know there's lots of many fans of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. This episode itself was written by Marion Dyer, Josh Fedman, Stephen Judd and Ken Christensen. This is Josh's first writing credit. Stephen is best known as a producer on the TV show Dark Winds, which is about two Navajo police officers in the 70s Southwest that are forced to challenge their own spiritual beliefs when they search for clues in a double murder case.
Good stuff. Yeah. I'm really enjoying the team here. You know, as I not seen Better Call Saul, but it feels a really good fit, what I know about it, for this more maturer content type show. It's great having that diversity in and on the writing team as well, given that not only are we dealing with someone who is deaf, but also from the Choctaw peoples. So, I think that's really, really good. It sounds like a great sort of cluster of people. Yeah, absolutely. And lots of consultants behind the scenes and behind the camera who've been involved in making sure this all represents the community as well. They've actually put up a website, the Choctaw Nation have put up a website specifically dedicated to Echo and all the people that were involved. So that's really cool. Go check that out. Finally, sorry, just forgot to mention Ken Christensen was a writer on The Punisher for Netflix, one of the Defenders shows on Netflix as well. So explains the blood. It does. This episode was directed by Sydney Freeland. I believe she directs all the episodes for the season as one of the essential creators for the show, but I'm not 100% sure. I didn't skip ahead in case I got spoiled on what happens in the season. But she is a Mexican director who's directed 2 episodes of Reservation Dogs as well. Yeah, I love Reservation Dogs. I still need to get into season 2, but season 1 I loved. You blew through that first season, didn't you? Yeah. And Devery Jacobs from Reservation Dogs was in What If and plays a major role in this season of Echo as well. So that's kind of cool to get that crossover. Well, exactly. Certainly a few little parallels in the opening as well. There is. We will talk about it as we get into our major points. But first, John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Echo Episode 1, Chafa? Sure. After losing her leg and her mother in a car accident, Maya Lopez moves to New York City with her father William, who has been shunned by her grandmother, who blames his criminal ways for the death of her daughter. William takes up a position as commander of the Tracksuit Mafia, working under Wilson Fisk, who becomes Maya's adoptive uncle. Years later, Maya witnesses Clint Barton's assault on the Tracksuit Mafia and kill William. Fisk arranges for Maya to work under him while promising to find William's killer. Sometime later, Maya would encounter Barton again, who reveals that Fisk was the one who arranged for William's death. Maya ultimately avenges her father by shooting Fisk in the face at point-blank range. 5 months later, Maya, with a bounty on her head and on the run for shooting Fisk, returns wounded to her hometown, Tamaha, Oklahoma. She meets with her uncle, Henry. Maya asks Henry to help her dismantle Fisk's operations so she can take over his empire and become the Queen Pin. But Henry refuses to assist and bring death to the people he loves. Elsewhere, Fisk recovers from his injury in hospital.
Fisk not dead.
I know.
Yeah, I think we said at the end of Hawkeye, as it faded to black when you heard the gunshot and you hear him falling to the ground, we're going, well, he can't be dead. We've still got Daredevil coming up, and we've still got Echo coming up,
Exactly.
and we know he's in it. But it was a bit of a shock. And the description of the episode said something like Maya Lopez goes on the run after killing the Kingpin. I was like, spoilers straight away. Interesting. So this episode, part recap, part catching up on the character, and part backstory for Maya Lopez. Personally, just to kind of kick this off, I think this was done really well. I think this is a great way to kick off the series rather than doing everything in a 5-minute. You should go out and watch these episodes of Daredevil or these episodes of Hawkeye. I think putting it into this story for the hour-long episode that we have here, I think it worked really well.
Yeah, I loved how this moved about, actually, from that sort of opening sequence around the ancestral connection and the first Choctaw people through to then Maya's backstory, the events that we saw in Hawkeye, that Christmas special, and then just, you know, I guess that little amuse-bouche for then getting into the guts of
the season.
The season.
Yeah. And then the big reveal at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of liked it.
Same. Usually I do it if there's a show or something coming out. Disney Plus will do the legends, the quick 10, 15 minute. Here's everything you need to know about Scarlet Witch while she was X. So you'd watch that. This was a unique way of telling that story, because some of it I was like, that's a direct scene. Like, they did not refilm scenes. That's a direct rip of the Hawkeye scene, for example, where Ronan and Echo will kind of face off each other, and he tells her the truth. Those are direct scenes, and I was like, oh, hold on, wait, I know this. You could tell is because also the actress has bulked up and kind of got way more kind of more fighting stance or fighting kind of size now. So you could tell because she just looks slightly different. She's a bit more muscly now than she was back in Hawkeye. So you can tell. I could tell. I was like, oh, this, yes, okay, that she looks different slightly. I'm not talking about when she was the child. That's
of course
a slightly different person.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. And it was good for the more casual viewer. So my wife and I watched it together, and obviously she's not as fanatic as myself and John and Derek in this thing, in these shows. But she was like, okay, now I know. Because she did watch Hawkeye. She watched Daredevil. Yeah. She just doesn't remember them as well as, say, we would. And she was like, now I remember what's happening, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It was useful for the reintroduction, if you will.
Absolutely. I must admit, I needed the refresher. I'm really glad at the refresher. I thought it was a really good way to do it. I'm sure I would have been able to pick it up from a couple of minutes of a refresher, but actually putting it into the story for the episode, I really enjoyed.
Absolutely. Cool. And there was a little bit of fondness for seeing the Tracksuit Mafia.
Absolutely.
As well.
Bro.
Yeah, trust a bro. Absolutely. Well, the way we're going to talk about the episodes of Echo, we're going to talk about our top 5 fight points for the episode. Fight point. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to talk about our major moments for the episode, the things we enjoyed, so we can hopefully get through everything that was covered in the episode. So let's start with the start. Let's start with our first fight point, which is the first Choctaw people. this was a cool opening. Really reminiscent for me of the heart-shaped herb and the ancestral plane in Black Panther. Thought that was a really interesting way to start it here with the spiritual side of the Choctaw people.
Yeah, absolutely. It was less so about the heart-shaped herb for me. And I'm sure it was because I just recently watched and podcasted on What If, but the whole Kahori episode, just because they were in a cave, there were the blue motifs running through the cave, the pool of water, even though it was just a small pool, and because of what happens to them, you just hear this distant rumbling, then it felt like they were transported via a portal into sort of and onto Earth from a different place. I mean, I loved how, I guess like almost like clay peeling off their skin to reveal the skin. And so I guess that recent bias of having seen that probably played into it. But, because we had discussed at the time, will there be Kahori, some kind of nod to that? And it felt to me there was that kind of nod as well as to the heart-shaped herb, but even with Namor and the Talokan, this, and again, coming through from sort of that First Peoples and Mesoamericans of sort of North and Central America. So I found this like really interesting and something completely unexpected. I didn't expect that we would be going starting off like that.
Absolutely.
And I did like how it weaved back into the story with sort of visions to Maya when she's back home in Tamaha in Oklahoma, where she kind of gets jolted up by seeing the woman leader Chafa in her dream. And I guess it playing specifically into the spirituality and of ancestors of the Choctaw Nation, but also more broadly that spirituality of First Peoples from North America.
Absolutely.
I really, really enjoyed that. I mean, it's something that's always been fascinating to me. So, I kind of was really pleasantly surprised that it started off. I thought, it was just going to be blood splatter across the lens or something.
You kind of expected it would take off directly from Hawkeye. That's how you start off your Echo story. You just give that final moment with her shooting Kingpin, and then you start your story. I was really surprised that it started this way, but very cool.
Yeah. Personally, I was enamored with how it began, in that it straight away grabs your attention. Because you are like, wait, what did I just put on? And it does make me question, will we see any of this actually permeate through? Because my belief was Echo was a more grounded kind of street level kind of show. But if they may bring in this as a way to explain her abilities, they may bring this in as a way to give her abilities, grant her abilities. We know this is at the MCU, so you have the heart-shaped herb stuff. You do have Kahori, this new introduction in the multiverse. Maybe there is another version in the standard Marvel 616 universe now on the MCU. Maybe there's the Eternals. Like, you have that as well. So there is multiple. The chance that they do have to bring this element in, maybe it's just a nice story, and that's another fine thing as well. The reason I'm leaning less so is there is a dream sequence again, briefly glimpsed later on, which we can talk about later, that leads me to believe that this will play some greater point and greater play throughout the series.
Absolutely.
And I'm down to see how that is, because essentially it's just showing aliens, well, not sky people, gods coming to Earth, being brought to Earth by the sky falling. It'd be interesting to see how they weave this creation kind of belief into into an actual MCU element.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So
And I
it'd
think
be
I think that's what makes it so interesting that they put it on screen the way that they've put this on screen. The creation belief, I had to look it up because I wanted to see, is this something that came from the Marvel writers, or is this connected to the Choctaw Nation and their creation belief? And taking it from Wiki, this was not edited directly after the show, so it had. I took this before the show came out, so it's not just directly related. Somebody didn't just copy and paste this from the description of the episode. So what they say in the creation belief, they say that at the beginning there was a great mound. It was from this mound that the creator fashioned the first of the people. These people crawled through a long dark cave into daylight and became the first Choctaw. For many years they lived in this area until a great shift occurred. At this time a great flood arose, covering the lands, and the Choctaw people had to flee by canoes to an island as guided by a dove. So what's interesting there is we have the cave, we have the people being made of clay, and the clay falls off them when they come out of the cave. They're guided out of the cave by a bird, not a dove in this case, and it revisits them when they land in our world effectively and guides them to the next place. And we do see that bird play another role later on in the episode as well. So
with it's the when Chula, Maya's grandmother, is driving out before they go to the store. And it's interesting because as soon as I saw the woodpecker, I had to search it on Wikipedia. I was like, that must be some element within their belief system and their storytelling as well. And so it's kind of interesting. I mean, I probably don't have any pronunciation right, but it's the biskinik, which is a woodpecker type bird, which kind of communicates to them by tapping, and pecking on the timber. So like, I just thought it was a really nice little touch. And again, as you say, it's brought through from this cave system, from this creation belief, through into, the modern world, with, Maya's grandmother. And again, it's that, a portent to something, but it would warn them, including on the Great Flood.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting how much they took from the original creation belief to make this part of the episode. So of course it is the intro, so they're not going to tell the entire creation story. But I like that they've referenced it here, and they paid good homage and good respect to it. And that's kind of it on the first point, I think.
Yeah.
But I do want to have one little call out. Since we're Irish,
absolutely,
there is a very direct connection between the Choctaw Nation and Ireland. Which we learned a couple of years ago about when a statue was put up in Cork, one of our second major cities of Ireland, commemorating the Choctaw people, because during the Irish famine, which happened during the 1800s, the Choctaw people, having just gone through the Trail of Tears, a time when they'd lost everything, when they didn't have any kind of money or any kind of resources, they gathered together to give funds to the Irish people to help them during the Irish famine. So it's an amazing story that's connected the two communities for the last couple of hundred years.
Like, it's fantastic.
It's really cool. And go see the statue in Cork if you ever come over to Ireland. It's really cool. Really interesting statue. And hopefully I'll get down to see it in Cork. It's not that far away. It's only about 6 hours.
Yeah.
Return.
6 hours.
It is if I walk, John.
Not 6 hours.
You can come too and you can drive.
Yeah.
In
which case we'll be down there in like half that time.
Yeah.
With a stop.
Exactly. Good stuff. We move on to our fight point number 2.
Absolutely. Echo works for Kingpin. Yeah. So, I mean, like, after that tragedy of the death of her mother, and also with the prosthetic lower leg that Maya gets, and moving to New York, we see Echo becoming involved with Kingpin. Initially, again, I actually thought this was a bit of a dream sequence, but initially sort of Kingpin meeting her at the karate club that she's at, where she spots her father, William, passing a brown envelope across to some unsavory guy at the door.
Yeah, and he's wearing his tracksuit from the Tracksuit Mafia as well. So these are all these scenes are the ones from Hawkeye. If you remember, those were the moments the first time we saw Wilson Fisk was in that fight club. And we heard his voice and we just saw the side of him. We were going, oh my God, Wilson Fisk going to be the show. And then he it took 2 more episodes to actually see Wilson Fisk in the show.
True.
So I do remember that, but there are new scenes in there as well, expanding on the story of Maya as she's growing up in New York and kind of adding to what we saw in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll call out one very special bit here. The scene where Maya is in the motorbike shop and is one of the first instances where we see the world or hear the world as she experiences it, as a deaf person, because it removes all sound.
Yeah.
For a split second, I did think something was wrong with my Disney Plus.
Really?
Because I was just like, wait, hold on. Why is, okay, got it.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Amazing.
It was. It really reminded me of the lens play that they did with Daredevil as well.
Yes, exactly.
You know, in terms
World
of
on fire,
focusing in, sort of blurring all the edges apart from, say, his ear or his eyes or his face and so on. Like, it just, that connectivity through between these two was really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved that scene as she's stealing the motorbike from the high-end motorbike shop, sets it up to go out through the window and smash into the police car. It's just so rebellious is what I'd probably say. So again, she's not on missions from Kingpin here. She's lost everything. She's lost her mom. She's living in New York. Her father's in a criminal gang, and she's acting out here. That's all that's happening. But I love how it was done. Again, as you say, as the sound drops out and you see the bike going through what would be a massive explosion through the window and crashing into the police car, it's only as it hits the police car, all the noise rushes back in. I thought it was a great choice by the director here.
Yeah.
Really cool on the sound designer. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and again, that just continues on throughout this episode. There is one part, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, where you hear the heartbeat that she was feeling of a person stop until it stops, and it breaks. Like, that is, for me, outside of the actual choreography, it's a fight scene. Well, and it's a fight scene with just before DD comes in. It for me is just so amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was just, that's what she's feeling in her bicep as she is strangling this person. Yeah. And to the point of, I was expecting it kind of like,
there was one.
Snap.
There was one. Yeah. She broke his neck.
Yeah, no. Remember, we were watching this with subtitles, as we always do when we're podcasting about the show, and it specifically comes up and goes 2 heartbeats beating, as in subtitles, and then it goes spine shatters, 1 heartbeat beating. I was like, wow, go subtitle person for describing that scene.
Yeah, exactly.
So spine shattered is what happens to that guy right there. Let's talk about that, because again, another callback to the Daredevil shows, and specifically that kind of set this whole oneer scene up, the idea of having a fight scene that looks like it's all done in one take. And they set this up in this episode of this moment really of Maya moving into the criminal underworld, working with Kingpin, working for Kingpin, as he's trying to defuse the bomb that could be Maya herself and what she's going to unleash in the world if he doesn't direct her into a path that he wants to direct her into.
Yeah, I mean, this is where Fisk is manipulating her, but using her rage from the death of her father at the hands of Hawkeye for his purposes.
Oh, really?
You know, I mean, I love that moment in the car where he has his signer in there, and he wants to use her abilities. You know, at the karate club, he recognizes there's potential in Echo, and I love the fact that he talks about the death of his own father, which was by him with a hammer, at least from the Daredevil series.
Absolutely. I lost my father when I was 12 years old. It was terrible to me that echoed through my life forever after. It's like, you killed him.
Exactly.
That was the central plot line from Daredevil season 1, was effectively learning that Wilson Fisk murdered his own father.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I just thought, okay. And I mean, again, it's this pervading criminality as well, you know, because you see William leaving with Maya to get this job in New York. They leave together, you know, his mother-in-law effectively blames him, you know, talks about the Lopez brothers, him and his brother Henry.
Yeah.
Coming from a family with criminality, thugs, and all this. And you can get that sense from William. He wants to sort of build this new life. He says, you're going to grow up and have a different life from me. And in the end, with his death at the Fat Man Auto Repairs.
Yeah.
She's being pulled in by the gravity that is Fisk into his world and being used for his purposes, and of which this fight scene is just is part of that, where it's interrupted by Daredevil as he's going in to take out another group that's creeping in on his territory.
Yeah.
So, but this fight scene is awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Again, like you said, Chris, that in and out of the sound as she's fighting.
Yeah, but I even mean from that opening moment when they walk into to this club to go and effectively join this meeting. The people that are there think that she's joining the meeting. From that moment onwards, it is all one shot, or it's all supposed to look like one shot.
Yes.
Of course, you can see some of the cuts, and that's exactly as you've always been able to see in the Oneers. But I do love it because it all feels like it's from Maya's perspective as she's going in. They're trying to explain to her what to do. They're not giving her very much instruction. It's basically, I think the final instruction that they get is, we're going to go in here and shoot some people, making the sign of a gun with their fingers. Is that okay? And she goes, I guess so. Doesn't really know, but they follow along. And I love, you see one of the guys dodges to the left, circles around, and as they come towards the door, he's made his way back around again, shoots the doorman in the face, and then they go into the room and the fight begins, and it's just move after move, is so well choreographed. I think I love these types of scenes. I think they did a great job here of incorporating into Echo. And would we have wanted any less, given how much we loved those scenes within Daredevil, than the arrival of Daredevil into the fight that turns into another one-shot fight between the two of them? How cool was that? There's some great Daredevil moves as well that come out of this. You can tell it's an experienced character here playing Daredevil. Charlie Cox remembers how to do these moves. Of course, he's not doing them. I know he does have a double to do a lot of the moves, but that moment when he flips over the fence and then flips through a set of shelves to get around Maya is so cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I definitely squealed at the one where he just, it's thread the needle effectively through the shelves just with the legs. I squealed at that. I was very happy with that move. It looked like it was straight from the comics. I was like, oh, that's just beautiful. Beautifully done. I have to say, so for me, the whole choreography, the camera placements, the sound, all of it, as well as, just the story of it, really, really good. And it was kind of good because, well, you got the sense, I mean, maybe it was just me, you got the sense that Maya was taking a bit of a while to warm up as to what she needed to do. Like, she was hanging back from the initial engagement with this group. Maybe part of it was down to their limited instructions, but or was it her being tactical, just surveying what needed to be done and then going into it? I mean, even her move with her prosthetic leg. So I love the fact that Daredevil striking with his billy clubs, hitting the metal of her prosthetic. I love that she kind of employed that leg with the prosthetic because of the metal, the additional weight of it, sort of using it against Daredevil's head, targeting his head.
So cool.
So this fight scene was just spectacular.
Yeah, loved it.
There's not much more I can say, but I'll be very quick on this. Just for me, this did exactly what they set out to do. Yeah. It shows you who Echo is. Like, it sets up her character in that she is questioning what what am I supposed to do here? Like, why is Kingpin? And you see the points of her growth throughout this fight. Yeah. From where she shows Guy tries to feel her up and she puts him in his place outside before we even get to the fight. To that point of, I wouldn't say no return, but that point of change where Guy falls on her when she's standing in the doorway and he starts beating her, and she's like, "Oh no, and the rage builds, and then the monster is loose, and then that point onwards, the one shot reminiscent of Daredevil, of the actual original show. Like Derek, you called it best. Like it's not a one shot.
Yeah,
fine. It looks close to. It is. It is not spectacular, but it is enough of a cinematic piece that you're like, oh, this is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like all the way back from Matthew Vaughn's Kingsman, like the original Kingsman, where he's like, we see that fight scene in the church. Everyone when that first came out was like, oh my God, this is a fantastic, like camera spinning with a person spinning had never been seen before. Yeah. It is still impressive today. To see that camera follow the person as they spin and fall. Yeah. To see Daredevil, they could have put this in episode 4, like the introduction of Daredevil. Yeah, because everyone knew Daredevil was coming. Yeah. No one knew when it was happening, but it was spectacular to see it now because hopefully we'll see him again later. But it also it was great to have it because we knew it was coming. So it was like the pent up relief. It's so good. Just look how great, because we know Daredevil's coming in his own show later. Yeah. So just seeing that here now, giving us a taster of who Daredevil will be. Again, timing wise, this is around season 2 of the kind of actual original Netflix shows. Because I was looking at the suit. I was gauging it by the suit. So it's around season 2, before season 3, I think around then.
Maybe. I think it might be just after season 3.
Could be after season 3 then.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Like everybody was still in play after the end of season 3 of Daredevil. There's nobody that's off the table. Nobody's dead of the major characters that we see here. So it could absolutely be at the end of season 3. But it's still a while ago, I suppose. This is the start of Maya's time working for Kingpin. So there's a few years there, I suppose.
It's also just the lawyeriness of Daredevil as well. You know, as he's fighting, just saying, I've been staking this place out, and then you guys come in and, you know, you've ruined it, basically.
It basically just ruined my whole week. I've been watching these guys for ages. I was about to take them down myself, and then you walk in and take my collar. Yeah. I did really like just that moment with Charlie Cox as Matt, underneath the mask. It did feel very lawyery Matt. Great stuff. Yeah. I don't know whether we're going to see Daredevil again. I'm sure some of our wonderful fellow defenders have already watched all 5 episodes and know that whether we do see Daredevil again in the season, but what a great way to introduce him. And as you say, Chris, that laying out of intent for when we do see Daredevil in his own, what do we say, 16 episode series currently for Daredevil Born Again, but nobody knows how that's going to go because it's all been retooled, but it will be coming hopefully very soon to Disney Plus. Right, that's it for the Daredevil fight, and Echo works for Kingpin in our 5.2. 5.3, it's pretty basic. It is just the fact that there is that Hawkeye recap, the story leading up to her shooting and what we thought was killing Kingpin, or well, we knew she didn't kill Kingpin. But is there anything else you wanted to pull out from that kind of flashback sequence, the kind of pulling everything together there from Hawkeye and the story that we know of Maya so far?
I just like the thud of Fisk going down because, you know, at the time of watching this, you were like, you were talking about the spoilers, and I was like, no, there was the thud from Hawkeye. It's like you were saying, Chris. Yeah. You know, they've really utilized the Hawkeye footage and that storyline really well. And I would say it is taken from there. Maybe there's some slight sort of pickups
takes or
and what have you that are being done, but it's really good. And along with that thud, I mean, quite frankly, and I know we'll come to it with our last point, I thought that was relatively final. Given the dumph and the point blankness of the shot. So again, the recap from the series was, I thought, really, really good. And and you forget actually from that series just the slight different strands running through it, really, because there's the whole thing with Kate Bishop, but that's not really addressed in here because it doesn't relate to this. But, you know, again, it was just really good to get that recap from Hawkeye. I mean, even him telling Maya about the double cross, effectively, that he had learned about the death of her father, clearing his own name for that supposed killing.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, seeing Jeremy Renner back here as Ronan, it is, again, as Chris mentioned, it is from the Hawkeye series, but having it all condensed and kind of accordion back into this being the story of Maya. Yes, we may have seen it in Hawkeye, but it was spread over 6 episodes, a show much more focused on Clint Barton and Kate Bishop. So having that story condensed in here into this episode so that we know who this character is going forward, I think it worked really well. But cool to see Renner in there too. And the dropping of Kingpin.
Yeah. No, I can't agree more. And the Renner bit did make me go, oh.
Yeah.
Obviously, he did have an accident. For those who aren't aware, Jeremy Renner had an accident with a snowplow 2 Christmases ago and has been on a massive road to recovery. And when I first saw him, I was like, is that... No, same scene.
Yeah.
Nope, same scene. Yeah. He's not him back. I was like, oh, give me my original Hawkeye. Hopefully we'll get some form of cameo. I don't think we will, but hopefully we will.
Yeah, not just yet, but I know they have confirmed he's filming the 3rd season of his own show, has starting filming in a couple months' time. So he's definitely on the full road to recovery.
Excellent.
I kind of also just quickly, I guess to close this point out, I kind of like the bookend of Hawkeye's involvement here, where he does say to Maya when he's telling her about, or the truth about her father, that, you're the same as me, blind with rage, it conceals the truth, and you're blind to that truth.
Yeah.
But it's that bookend of, with Kingpin trying to, again, say, it's that mechanism of, well, I'm like you. I'm like you because my father died. I happened to kill him. I'm not going to tell you that. And here Hawkeye saying, I'm like you.
Yeah.
To try and sort of bed in that he's telling the truth to her. Whereas with Fisk's, it's to conceal a lie. And I really liked how that played out.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. That idea that he's kind of going, you could get your rage used by somebody else, turning you against everybody. Yeah. And that's exactly what Kingpin had done. So it's quite cool.
And one other final thing is, dare I say it, it's not only in zombie movies that you should double tap someone.
Well, yeah.
Always.
Always double tap.
Yes. Not in real life, in drama shows.
Yeah, in drama shows. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Zombieland taught us,
absolutely,
always double tap
always
a
double
zombie.
Tap. Absolutely.
Otherwise, they'll come back to life. Does that mean Fisk is a zombie? Who knows? We'll see in Marvel.
Zombies, yes. On to our fight point number 4, the return home to Tamaha, Oklahoma. I suppose this is where our new Maya story begins. And interestingly, there's a 5-month time jump. Again, Chris, you said she'd become much more muscular. There is 5 months later here after the death of Wilson Fisk that she's returning. She had another bullet wound from a completely different, unrelated event. I don't know. There was something about when she arrived back in Oklahoma looking for help with this bullet wound. I was like, did she get that in Hawkeye? Did I see that? Did I miss that moment or something like that? Why did she go all the way from New York to Oklahoma to have a bullet dealt with? Surely she knows someone in New York, but no, there's that 5-month time jump to she gets back there and meets up with her uncle Henry at the roller rink.
This was cool. I was so glad to see that she does that. There is that time jump because I very much like you. I was like, Wait, what? What just happened here? And then seeing her go to her grandma's house and sewing herself up with the classic floss technique.
Yeah.
Floss and a fishing hook is what you can do to sew up a bullet wound.
Minty fresh, yes.
Of course, that minty fresh will always make you infected, which we find out.
Maybe she wasn't infected. Maybe that was just the mint coming out of her skin. That horrible, gross green mint coming out of her skin.
Let's hope not.
Before we get into the rink, I did want to call out this scene where she falls asleep on the couch, and we see flashbacks of what looks like both her in a previous age or previous lives and type thing. So it's whether it's her in a previous No. There's one where she is dressed in what would be classic Native American garb.
Okay.
And one looking like a Western. So again, don't know, maybe it's her younger past lives, or maybe it's just her younger self when she was, before she left. I'm very interested to see how this plays in. And again, is it anyway linked to the opening, where we saw the creation belief, for the Choctaw people? Is it, again, some kind of, there is a link between all this, and this is maybe she becomes a bit more of a super powered individual versus someone who is just right now really good at reading people. That's kind of her power at the moment.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's also because, because she's passed out on the sofa after her sort of DIY flossing. So, it's this kind of connection through this, maybe fever dream or something to that spiritual plane, that it, that comes flooding in, with, I guess, what's happening with her body. So I kind of, like you, Chris, I really thought this was interesting. Certainly given kind of sort of the naming of the episodes, or at least this first episode being that female leader of the first of the Choctaw Nation, Chafa. So, I'd be really interested to see that. And also, then she meets Biscuits.
Yes, she does.
Which could also have come from a fever dream. I didn't know you could call someone Biscuits, because I would be a malted milk.
Should we call you? And this is Malted Milk
this
from
is malted
TV
milk.
Podcast
Yeah, exactly.
Industries.
Or chocolate malted.
Well, we could, MM. There you go. Mother's Milk. It's in The Boys.
Exactly.
For another show we cover. We'll just call you MM. From now on.
There you go. Yeah. Or CMM.
I'm just
Chocolate
malted milk. Yeah.
Love it.
Which was quite good to see Biscuits here, because he is mentioned briefly, because he wasn't able to do he wasn't able to make the kind of camp night that they were going to have before it started pouring down from the start. But the thing here, just to kind of put the context on this bit, is that she's been away. Yes, it's 5 months later, but it's 20 years gone since she was last there.
Yeah.
And leaving abruptly with her dad to go to New York.
Yeah.
And, she is on the run. The wound is a result of, Fisk's collected men sort of hunting her down. We do find out there is a bounty on her. So, she is in a precarious situation here, and yet, he is really excited to see her, but she really wants to keep it on the down low because of this bounty. But you get the sense, with her, with Bonnie, again, she doesn't want Bonnie to know that she's been there, and we get this running through her time back at her hometown.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really important to mention Bonnie as a character, because I presume she's going to be quite a big character in the show. They had that sleepover together at the beginning of the episode where they effectively, May is saying to her, "You're not just my cousin, you're my sister." When she leaves, it's Bonnie that she's calling for to come with them to New York.
Yeah.
You see when her father dies and May is at the funeral, it's Bonnie that contacts her and says, "I'm always here for you. I always have been." And May ignores the text, but you get the feeling that they have been in contact for the 20 years, even though May has been ignoring her, Bonnie potentially being the one that's reached out.
Yeah.
But here she is, back in her hometown, and being told, if you finish whatever business is that you have here and don't tell Bonnie, you'll break her heart completely. So Bonnie's going to be an important character. And as I mentioned up front, played by Devery Jacobs, although we haven't seen her on screen very much, from a very far distance, across the way we've seen her, but played by Devery Jacobs, who played Kahore in What If, and of course was in Resurrection Dogs as well. So that's really interesting. But the reason why I'm specifically calling it out here is because you're both mentioning about this ancestral connection to the Choctaw Nation's creation. It makes me wonder whether potentially Bonnie is playing a character who isn't from the Choctaw Nation, who maybe is from the Mohawk tribe and has a direct connection back to Kahori. I wonder if that's the way they may play it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So
be interesting to see.
is she a direct descendant from Kahori in this world?
Interesting.
That'd
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And the other interesting thing is that roller skate rinks are alive and well.
Yes, they are.
And I have to say, Black Crow's roller rink it was phenomenal with its little sign, "Make America Skate Again."
There you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be just America. I will let you boys know there is one in Dublin as well.
Really?
There's a roller rink in Dublin down on the Long Mile Road.
Excellent.
There you go.
Well, then we're going, Chris.
Down. Red light, green light, all the way.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Engage core, everyone. Engage core.
I do remember it well from the Top Hat in Dunleary, where we used to go as kids. So,
I remember
the old
it.
local roller rink. But I love that Maya calls it out to Henry, to Henry Blackcrow, where she says to him, "You've been using this exact same thing since the 90s. Can you not change it up a bit after all these years?" So she remembers back to when she was a kid doing exactly the same thing that these kids did in the roller rink. So I really like that. That was a good touch. But in here, we also find out, as you say, John, there is a bounty on Maya's head because the guy who's supposed to be helping out, the guy who works at the roller rink, who works for
Vicky.
For Henry, Vicky, who works for Henry, and he calls it out that he works for him in other places, not just in the roller rink. So I presume that means in his criminal endeavours. But he calls in the bounty to see if he can effectively get the money for reporting Maya.
Yeah, he may have a lead, exactly. Like, I really like this because at the time of watching it, as soon as Vicky started doing the texting, I was like, but how would he know? Like, he's a dude at a roller rink. I was kind of like, how does he know here? And this is what I love about the show, because when Henry and Maya up on the water tower, again, another iconic kind of image of America for me, that water tower, you see the telescope being passed around, like you say, it'll break Bonnie's heart if she knows you're here and you don't tell her. Then she goes, "Now your turn," and there is the Fisk shipping depot in town. Fisk is woven not just in New York but throughout the country. Really like that. And Henry is effectively, one of his managers by the sounds of it. He knows he's connected in some way.
Henry got the job for William, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
When William moved to New York, it's Henry that had that connection to Kingpin, I think.
So he knows the deal with Fisk and his organization.
Yes.
So I just really like that, sort of just, really making it clear that this isn't an accident why Maya has gone to see Henry, because she knows she can get an, off the books proper job done, quote, on her wound, and have the stitches replaced and everything sorted out. And Gretchen was a nice bit of comedy relief here. I really enjoyed this, the mortician. And again, as Henry's signing and Gretchen gets more and more technical with what she's saying, he's kind of like throws his hands up in the air and says, I don't know I don't know how to sign this, or I just don't know what she's talking about.
And eventually just signs the important part. She's not here to embalm you today, basically. Okay, great. We can move
I
on.
loved that little bit. It was just good to have that little bit of injection of humor here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of that humor, for me, the writing on this episode really sets a beautiful tone.
Yeah.
We've got some amazing dramatic moments. We've got some amazing action moments. We've got some amazing just narrative kind of dialogue. And the delivery. This is a tough one for me because it's one of the, I'll be very honest. I don't watch many films or TV shows that are predominantly delivered via ASL through American Sign Language.
There's not that many, Chris.
No,
in fairness,
exactly.
It's not your fault.
There's definitely some indie films that I'm aware of, and I've been told, you need to watch this and check this out.
Well, the Oscar-winning movie Coda would be a movie that's told primarily through ASL. So, it's a pretty recent one. But there's just not that many examples of it, and that's what makes this show so special. We always talk about representation being so important. Seeing you on screen is really important. And if you do it as well as this, we're not only seeing a drama told through ASL. We're seeing a massive action show with the lead actress who has to use ASL to speak to everybody around her, and everybody around her is interacting with her with ASL. And you're seeing her struggles. That great moment with Vicky in the skate park where he's ignoring her, and she's trying to get his attention by ringing the bell, and he treats her like dirt. He's like, but I've got a headache. Stop ringing the bell. Oh, you're not giving the information. The strong silent type, are you? You know, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you find out as the conversation progresses, he knows who she is.
Well, and yeah.
So he knows her reputation, and he probably knows that she doesn't speak, and he's just treating her pretty badly.
Yeah. Like with the security guard just before the battle with Daredevil.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's the thing. It's got so many layers because people are absolutely multi-layered. So, you know, Maya is also an amputee. And that is being represented here.
Absolutely.
As well as being of the Choctaw Nation, you know? So it's really, really good because it shows the complexity of life, here represented through Maya. And how that plays into the storyline, which is really, really good, as well as then having, you know, this relationship with Bonnie, that is, you know, weird because of them being parted for so long.
Yep.
And in a sense, I guess Maya dealing with so much of her own stuff, in a sense, has let it float off because there is that great moment on the water tower where, and I loved how just Maya goes, you know, it's your turn, signs, it's your turn, as she moves it away from it, focusing on Bonnie to Fisk's depot, where he says about it would break her heart, and Maya believes that her feelings have got nothing to do with her, and he disagrees. It's like, they should.
Exactly.
You know, you were so close.
Yeah.
So
her sister,
I really liked just how this is so sort of structured and layered through with all these different aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one for our wonderful fellow defenders. If you haven't checked it out, there's an interview with Sidney Freeman, the director of the episode, who talks about the representation that's brought alive in the episode, and specifically talks about not the challenges, but how they wanted to show ASL on screen, because one of the things I certainly wouldn't have been aware of is ASL is effectively using your hands to make the letters of words, and then there are other pieces to the language itself. But one of the fundamental parts of it is there is the facial expressions that go along with how someone signs a word will also add to the interpretation. So she wanted to make sure that on screen you can see when someone's signing angrily, or someone's signing afraid or worried, or someone's signing happily on screen. So that's why you're seeing a lot of close up of Maya when she's only able to use ASL with other people around her. She's not able to verbalize what word she's saying. So you need to get the intent from her face and from the signing. So I think that they've done a really good job of showing that on screen. It works really well. You see it in loads of different situations. You see it with Kingpin and his interpreter, and you see it with people close to Maya who are used to that shorthand with her of how to talk with her. But I think it's cool. I think it looks really great on screen. So well done for the showrunners and the creators of the show for showing it as dynamic as it is on the show.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Anything else about the return home to Tamaha before we just talk about our last point really quickly?
Well, just to connect into our fight point number 5, it's not just for the stitch up that she's come back.
Absolutely.
To Tamaha.
Yeah, absolutely. Our final point really is Queenpin, because this is, we said we kind of went through the stages setting up Maya, who she is, talking about the Choctaw Nation, talking about the history of Maya, and that she has come home, and then the final piece is what's the plan? What is this 5-episode season about? Why is Maya here, and what is her plan? And she reveals that she wants to be Queenpin, effectively, that Kingpin has had his time as leader. She put a bullet in his head, so he's gone now. There's a vacuum, and she feels she is going to step up into that vacuum as effectively his heir.
Well, that's it. It's like she wants to send Fisk's men a message, which, interestingly, is that she assumes that she killed him. And then, obviously, you get the lovely moment where you hear heavy breathing from a hospital bed.
Mm-hmm.
Pirate Fisk.
We've gone from Hawaiian shirt Fisk to Pirate Fisk
Yeah.
in this last episode.
Arr. This is cool. It's a nice setup for Queenpin. Like, I'm interested to see, especially the last few months. Like, is she traveling the country to different Fisk operations, taking control? Is this the first? Is this the beginning of her plan? Is she midway through her plan? It's a tantalizing kind of setup for the next 4 episodes. Because, you want to know where we go from this. It's interesting as well. I thought Maya was going to be set up as a somewhat anti-hero, but more heroic.
Yeah.
I did think towards the end of Hawkeye, they were setting her up to be this more on the side of good than the setting up for Queenpin. Okay. So I'm interested to see. Oh no, they haven't set her up this way. Maybe by the end of this, miniseries, special presentation, maybe. This is the story. Maybe it's Bonnie who changes her. But yeah, for me, it was just like, she's not a good person still. She's maybe getting there, but nope. She wants to run it all. The queen of an empire.
It's interesting, isn't it? On balance throughout the Marvel TV shows, we've kind of had a relative balance of hero and villain shows. WandaVision, for example, it's kind of revealed that Wanda's the villain of that first season, right? Yeah. By the end of it, it's kind of revealed there. Obviously, Loki season 1 and 2, the greatest villain in Marvel, gets 2 seasons of a TV show, eventually redeems himself. And here we start Maya as a true villain. She is a member of a criminal gang previously working for Kingpin. It's a villain character, and whether she has a turn or not as the season goes on, you're absolutely right, Chris. By the end of this, where she's revealing, I want to be Queenpin, he's gone, he's had his run. Effectively, I'm the natural heir to the Empire. It is a great starting point for this character. She's not a good guy. She's not in the grey area. She wants to take over from the biggest bad that we've seen in the street level heroes.
Yeah, and to me, this is really good because it is that, she killed Fisk, or she thought she'd killed Fisk. She shot him because she was filled with rage still.
Absolutely.
Realized his lies. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So she took it from Hawkeye. Didn't mean to say that she was going to then change. It was, she's actually got the ambitions. Yeah. And I mean, in a sense, what you see with her father is that, the promise of a new beginning, and yet it's not for him. He thinks it's for her, but she's watching him. Like, there's that moment in the Karate Club where she's just watching him, and she can sense that it's not necessarily above board, because again, the facial expression from the kid who's playing the younger Maya, really, really good. So you've got this person who's has no hearing, is intently watching all the time and picking up the behavior from her father.
Absolutely.
So this was really, really good, I think. And, it doesn't bode well that we see Fisk sort of alive. Well, alive and breathing.
He's not dead.
Again, to Henry's point, when she asks for the, to send the message. I mean, I think she wanted one of the rail cars, the train cars.
Yes, I want one train car.
He's kind of, he rejects that, he doesn't want to bring war, to the people he loves. He knows, how serious Fisk is.
Absolutely. And importantly, again, not just the people he loves, the people that love Maya.
Yeah.
So really important. The kind of concept you get from all of the sequences that we see with Fisk and with Maya is that he's grooming her, saying, I love you, I'll take care of you, calling him an uncle, him saying that he's using all of his resources to find the person that murdered her father, and it's him, is what brings about the rage within Maya. That's why she kills him, because she's going, hang on a second, you told me you had it taken care of, you told me you would give the person who killed my father over to me to punish him, but it turns out it was you all along, or you were behind it all along, so that's where that comes from. Really, really cool, way to end out this episode. And again, the setup for the season here as we get it. So, a good way to close it out. Any notes, anything that we haven't talked about, any little moments that you thought were interesting that we haven't talked about in the episode, Cass?
Nothing in the episode. One quick cute thing is that they've released when they told Alakwa Cox that she would be basically playing Echo, and also they released that Zoom call, essentially.
Right.
And it's a really cute just setup, kind of showing her, and it's a bit of behind the scenes. Nothing looks like too spoilery. Nothing, if you've seen Hawkeye and you've seen this episode. And it's just a really cute kind of piece. And then it just kind of trails in from behind the scenes into this season on Echo. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And it's just a cute thing. It also then, it talks about the representation bit that we've talked about already. Just really cute.
Excellent. That the coming up this season on the show, that got me as well, because it went to black directly after Kingpin, and then shows you scenes from the rest of the season. I was like, stop showing me trailers for a show that you've already released. So we've talked about this moving a few times. This show was originally supposed to be, I think, back in October of last year, maybe even earlier, because it was supposed to follow so directly after Hawkeye. But when you make your final decision to put it all out in one day, don't put a trailer after the first episode when people can just move on to the next episode, because it's really frustrating. You're seeing spoilers for things that are coming up the rest of the season. So
also, if you're going to do that, allow when you click back or stop on Disney Plus that it actually stops. And it doesn't take forever to go, oh, you want me to what? Oh, wait, I have to press it 5 times. 5 times now, not the once. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, you've seen it all now. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Autoplay.
I just had one quick note, because we didn't call it out in the episode. It was just a moment, and again, it's all about these moments that are put together to give you a sense of Maya's character. So that scene as she's a young girl, when she's going into her first fight, or one of her first fights, in the fight club, it then transitions into older Maya in the ring, up against an opponent. Directly at the start of that, you get a sense of not the powers of Maya, but why her perception plays into why she's such a good fighter. And I thought it was really well done. She's fighting the guy in the ring. He drops his right hand and starts to move the fingers of his hand, and she perceives that that's what he's going to throw his next punch with. And she grabs him by that hand and takes him to the ground immediately. So it's just the way it's put into the episode to show you how Maya thinks and how she's able to perceive her surroundings. Which I thought was really cool to just drop that in there.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, after the Daredevil encounter, you do get Fisk recognizing that she held her own against him, as he says.
Absolutely.
So again, another little just sort of aspect to the recognition of her ability to fight, to be adaptive, to brawl, whatever it is, whatever it takes, kind of thing.
Exactly. Good stuff. That's it for our coverage of the first episode of Echo, but we do have one final piece to say. Chris, do you defend Echo episode 1, Chafa?
100%. This is a fantastic opening. Wets the whistle in terms of story, gives you the catch up, tells you who the character is, sets it up perfectly, sets up the characters, the storyline, and leaves you with that, I'm not talking about the coming soon on this season. I'm saying the end of where you see Kingpin is alive. Well, it's just fantastically set up. So yes, I 100% defend this. And I would also say, if you have someone who's not a huge Marvel fan, this could be a one to get them in as well. It's an interesting, potentially very dramatic play. And it's going to be a good one to watch. So yes, I defend this episode. Johnners, do you defend this episode?
Yes, I absolutely defend this episode. I'd give this 5 wound flossings out of 5.
Wow.
I just was really captivated. Minty fresh. I was really captivated with this. I love this kind of treatment of Marvel characters anyway. Is what had me transfixed around the Marvel Netflix shows. And to be honest, dare I say, a little bit of nostalgia came flooding back seeing this kind of treatment. I think it's really layered. It's, more complex, more nuanced. Really, really enjoyed this, and I think it's a great story to tell, and I can't wait to see what it is. So as an intro to a character, which, to be honest, I wasn't particularly fussed about this show in leading up to it, until maybe they started to say it was going to be a more, say, adult or mature treatment. But even then, from the Hawkeye series, it's not something that I thought would spin out of it. And if it was, I didn't think I was necessarily going to be fully on board with it, but this really grabbed me, and I really enjoyed the performances, the action, the writing, the different uses of the camera and of sound. Absolutely superb. So 5 wound flossings out of 5 for me.
Excellent. And he hates me because I told him he couldn't watch episode 2 until we recorded the podcast, didn't I, John?
Well, there's that as well.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't hate you.
Okay.
Just disappointed.
Just disappointed. Just disappointed. Yeah, and for me as well, absolutely defend this episode. I think it's pretty clear from the way that we've talked about the episode that we all really enjoyed it. And there's certainly just some great elements that they can jump off into the rest of the series with. And I think just using all that knowledge in the past to build an episode around it to start off this season, it feels like the right choice. It feels like if you're bringing on board people that have never watched the Netflix Marvel shows or didn't watch Hawkeye, don't know who the character of Maya is, building a story around it rather than doing, here's what happened previously in Maya's story, I think works really well. And adding in her as a youngster and what happened with her mother and how she lost her leg at the beginning, and bookending it with Kingpin being alive and what her plan is to try and take over Kingpin's world, I think works really, really well. Some really interesting characters as well to see what happens with them for the rest of the season. So yes, totally defend this one.
Yes.
Great stuff.
I think with that, let us move on to our bar quiz.
Yes.
For this series.
It's back. Good stuff. Yeah, we need a bit of a drink after the
bit of a libation,
after this first episode.
exactly.
Yes. So, John, we've got our first question. We are going to be giving out 5 questions for the Echo series, 1 per episode, and you'll be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Echo goodies at the end of the season. Most likely, the one I'm thinking of is the Echo comic book, the collected comic book about some of the history of the character of Echo and some of that great artwork from David Mack. So that's my plan. So all you need to do is send in the correct answer to each of the questions for each episode to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. So at the end of the season, we'll have 5 questions. You'll have 5 answers, and whoever gets them right will be in with a chance of getting their hands on some Echo goodies. John, do you want to give us the first question?
Sure. What is the name of the martial arts studio back in Maya's hometown of Tamaha, Oklahoma?
Very good. Very good. We were scanning through everything that happened in Tamaha to try and come up with a question for this one. I was going to ask John to pull out a line from one of the posters that was on there. We thought that might be too hard.
I picked this as well just because there was some oblique kind of references to a former Marvel Netflix show as well as possibly another MCU. It is the sort of the smashing together of potentially 2 different shows.
Very good. And that's a hint. John, do you want to get the question one more time?
What is the name of the martial arts studio back in Maya's hometown of Tamaha, Oklahoma?
Excellent. That's your first question. You can email the answers in to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com at the end of the season. Also, you can email in your feedback to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Just like Coffee and Vodka, who sent an email into us on the first episode. He says, "Greetings, fellow homebound defenders. Not much to say, but a competent intro into the series. We got the background and our brief glimpses of DD and the Fat Man. An excellent initial sparring session between Echo and the Man in Red. Interesting to learn of her intention to become the big woman on campus. More after episode 2. Nice thing about having an addictive personality is finding binging sessions a great way to spend the day. 3.5 Cotton-Eyed Joes, dropped thugs and minty wounds out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka." Ooh, interesting.
Sounds like a Halloween treat, doesn't it? I'll give the kids some minty
wounds.
Or a serial killer's like just making sure everything stays super fresh.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Yeah. Minty wounds. You
Minty
just kind of
wounds.
put spearmint all over your knife and it's fine.
Absolutely. Sorts out all problems.
Exactly. Good stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Yeah, glad you liked that initial sparring session between Echo and Daredevil. Certainly, I hope there will be another one, because that was, for me, quite epic.
So cool. And if we don't get to see it in Echo, maybe we'll get to see it in Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yes. No. And of course, if they ever want to do just some crazy sitcom where they have Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk kind of being like the odd couple, Dee Dee and the Fat Man is a great name for that instead of the odd couple. Yeah.
I like it.
I'd watch that.
Definitely.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Also, over on our Facebook group was some feedback. First up, Harvey Locust, who says, I was not expecting that. What a disjointed first episode. So much previously on, mixed with a Daredevil scene, a pseudo-training montage, and seeming connections to What If, had me scratching my head as to where we were going to land in the story. I'm glad we did eventually settle into current timeline, and I hope we will get a cleaner story from now on. Yeah, thanks, Harvey. Obviously, yeah, different viewing experience for yourself. I guess that mix and match for me just really was something different and unexpected, and so I kind of really sort of focused in on the episode for sure. So
I think they know the audience quite well. I think there are going to be some people brought on by Echo who'd be intrigued to see this but may not have seen other things in the past, so you got to give them that kind of idea that you need to be brought into this world and understand what's going on. But I think we've landed in the same place as Harvey at the end of the episode. It is now a clean break.
Exactly.
We are seeing what's going to happen in the future. So,
and I think Harvey points to the importance of needing that in the current timeline for sure. So definitely, see that. So yeah, thanks, Harvey.
Thanks, Harvey.
Yep. Thanks, Harvey. Also over on Facebook, we had Michael Booth who had this to say. So far, so good. But for some reason, Disney Plus on my PC defaulted to Choctaw audio while showing English selected. I didn't realize something was wrong until Fisk started talking in the car. Well, that's definitely a different way for Vincent D'Onofrio to sound.
He's a good actor then.
Yeah, no, definitely. Michael went on to say the fight with Dee Dee was cool. I like seeing her use her prosthetic as a weapon and defense, using it to take the hit from his baton, etc. I hope we get more and that his name, in the very good way, closing credits wasn't a one-off. The Native American stuff looks interesting. I need to watch the What If episode. Extra star for Make America Skate Again.
Absolutely, Michael. Absolutely.
Love that.
And I didn't know they did a whole Choctaw audio selection, which is really interesting. Because in the What If episode, it was all in the Mohawk language, and then they went and released a separate audio version where it was in English.
Yes.
So interesting to see they're doing the inverse here.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a shame when it automatically defaults to something like that.
Yeah.
Though for you, especially if you don't know it's coming, I suppose. Hopefully the subtitles were on so you could understand what was happening at the beginning of the episode, Michael.
Yeah.
But I love that the option's there. It's really important again to have the option there so you can watch it whatever way you choose. They're learning over on Disney Plus. Good stuff. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
Finally, Dr. Bob Phillips says, blood, gore, working through your problems with spine realignment and the visualization of Chris Jones' mantra, not dead until we've seen them die on screen and stay dead.
Yeah.
Love the richness of the New York scenes and the washed out flat bleakness of the country life. Does the Queen get to escape, get crowned or get crushed? Will the Ronin and the Daredevil help either side? Will someone sue the original trauma center for an amputation when some reconstructive surgery, plus or minus bone grafting, would almost certainly have done the job on Maya's leg?
Well, you can be sure that probably there will be a lawsuit.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lawyer play in Matt Murdock. Maybe Echo makes friends with him and
maybe
he gets the payout that she deserves.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Bob. And yes, always the visualization of my mantra, not dead yet until we've seen the body, is the best way when it comes to the MCU.
That's comic books.
Yeah.
Yep.
And put in the ground. But even then.
Even then, it can happen. It can happen. Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much, everybody, for your thoughts. We love to hear your thoughts. Please keep them coming in. Email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can pop over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can record up to 90 seconds of your thoughts about the episode. Share them with us and we'll play them on the podcast. You can also join us over at our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, or come and follow us over on Threads at TV Podcast Industries as well. No need to follow us on Twitter. We'll be leaving that soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So we can make Twitter our X.
So we can make Twitter our X. Exactly.
You can also support the TV Podcast Industries family by subscribing at tvpodcastindustries.com and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast catcher. Also, why not share the podcast? Because sharing the podcast is what, gentlemen?
Sharing the love.
Oh, yes. And if you really love us, you can always head on over to patreon.com or buymeacoffee.com and support us that way by heading to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries or buymeacoffee.com/TVPI.
Absolutely. And thanks once again for everybody that supported us throughout the last 10 years of podcasting.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's been so good having everybody share the podcast or support us through Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. Or just feedback, because feedback's awesome too. This is just the beginning of our Echo podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We'll be back next week with episode 2 of Echo Loak. Speak to you next time.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much, fellow defenders, for joining us until episode 2. Keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep defending.
Bye.